If this story of sacrifice and split-second decisions moves you, please like and subscribe right now. You won't believe what happened when a surgeon did the unthinkable to save a life. Let's get into it. Asterisk, asterisk. The night was cold and dark. Sirens wailed through the empty streets of Memorial Hospital. Inside the cardiac unit, Dr. James Sullivan stood over a patient, his hands moving with the precision of someone who had spent 30 years saving lives. Sweat dripped from his forehead onto his surgical mask. Then the call came through. "Dr. Sullivan, we have an emergency. You need to come now. Chief of Police Marcus Richardson's wife has collapsed. She's dying. You're the only surgeon who can help her." Without thinking, without hesitating, Dr. Sullivan made a choice that would change everything. He ran, still wearing his surgical scrubs, still covered in blood from the patient he'd just finished operating on. He ran out of the hospital like a man possessed. What happened next would shake an entire police department and teach everyone an unforgettable lesson about judging by appearances. Dr. James Sullivan was not just any surgeon. At 52 years old, he had dedicated his entire life to saving people. He was the head of the cardiac surgery department at Memorial Hospital, one of the most prestigious medical facilities in the city. His success rate was extraordinary. His patients trusted him with their lives. But his life hadn't always been this way. James Sullivan grew up in a poor neighborhood on the south side of the city. His father was a construction worker who barely made enough to feed his family. His mother worked 2 jobs. They didn't have much, but they had each other. When James was 16, his mother suffered a massive heart attack. The family couldn't afford the best care, and she died on the operating table. That tragedy changed James forever. He swore that day that he would become a surgeon. He would learn everything about the human heart. He would save people. He would make sure no family had to suffer the way his family suffered. Medical school was brutal. James worked night shifts to pay for his education. He studied during the day. For 8 years, he lived on coffee and determination. When he finally became a surgeon, he didn't feel victorious. He felt like he was just beginning. For 3 decades, Dr. Sullivan had been in the operating room. He had saved thousands of lives. He had brought people back from the brink of death. But in all those years, nobody really knew him. He wasn't famous. He didn't appear on television. He didn't give interviews to newspapers. He just did his job quietly, with excellence. Chief of Police Marcus Richardson, on the other hand, was very well known. He had been the police chief for 12 years. He was tough, dedicated, and respected throughout the city. But his wife, Catherine, was suffering from a serious heart condition. For months, she had been declining. The best cardiologists had warned her that she needed surgery, but she was afraid. "I don't want to go under the knife," Catherine would say to her husband. "I'm too scared." Chief Richardson held her hand and promised her that when the time came, they would find the best surgeon. They would find someone who could save her life. That morning, Catherine Richardson woke up feeling different. Something was wrong. She knew it immediately. Her heart was racing. She couldn't breathe properly. Her husband called 911, and an ambulance raced to their home. At the hospital, the doctors confirmed what everyone feared. Catherine was having a massive cardiac event. Her heart was failing. She needed emergency surgery immediately, or she would die. "Get me Dr. James Sullivan," Chief Richardson commanded, his voice cracking with desperation. "I don't care where he is. I don't care what he's doing. Get him here now. He's the best. He can save my wife." Nobody knew where Dr. Sullivan was at that exact moment. He was in the middle of a complex heart surgery with another patient. The operation couldn't be stopped or abandoned. Lives hung in the balance. But word was spreading through the hospital. Catherine Richardson was dying. The police chief's wife was in critical condition. Every minute counted. Dr. Sullivan finished his surgery at 11:47 p.m. The patient was stable. The operation had been successful. He stepped away from the operating table, exhausted but satisfied. His team began the process of closing the patient up and moving him to recovery. That's when his phone buzzed with an urgent message from the hospital administrator. "Dr. Sullivan, emergency. Catherine Richardson collapsed. Massive cardiac event. She's in the ICU. Chief Richardson is requesting you specifically. She's dying. We need you now." James read the message twice. Catherine Richardson, the police chief's wife. He had seen her file. He knew her medical history. She had a serious heart condition that required immediate intervention. If she went into complete cardiac arrest without surgery, she would be gone in minutes. He looked down at himself. He was still wearing his surgical scrubs. They were covered in blood from the operation he'd just completed. His mask was around his neck. His surgical cap was still on his head. His hands were still damp from the sterile scrubbing. Dr. Sullivan didn't hesitate. He didn't go to change. He didn't shower. He didn't take time to clean up. He simply ran out of the operating room, down the hallway, through the hospital corridors. His heart was pounding with urgency and fear. A woman was dying, not just any woman, but the wife of the police chief, the man who protected the city, the man whose wife deserved to live. James reached the parking garage and sprinted to his car. His mind was already racing through the medical procedures he would need to perform. He was calculating the time it would take to get to the ICU. He was thinking about what equipment he would need. He was preparing himself mentally for the surgery that could determine whether Catherine Richardson lived or died. He drove faster than he had ever driven in his life. His old sedan weaved through the dark streets. Red lights meant nothing. Stop signs meant nothing. There was a life hanging in the balance, and he was the only one who could save it. But he didn't notice the police car that started following him several blocks ago. Officer Derek Martinez had received a call about a suspicious vehicle driving erratically through the downtown area. He was instructed to investigate. When he saw the car speeding through red lights, weaving dangerously through traffic, he immediately turned on his lights and siren. Dr. Sullivan heard the siren behind him, but he didn't pull over. He couldn't pull over. Every second counted. Every moment he delayed was a moment Catherine Richardson's heart was struggling to beat. He pressed the accelerator down harder. The chase lasted 5 minutes, but it felt like an eternity. Finally, Dr. Sullivan pulled into the police station parking lot instead of continuing to the hospital. He knew what he had to do. He needed to explain. He needed to make Officer Martinez understand. Officer Martinez approached the car with his hand on his weapon. He saw a man in bloody surgical scrubs. He saw someone who looked suspicious, who had been driving erratically, who had fled from police. Hands where I can see them. Officer Martinez shouted. "Listen to me," Dr. Sullivan said, his voice urgent and desperate. "My name is Dr. James Sullivan. I'm a surgeon at Memorial Hospital. Police Chief Marcus Richardson's wife is dying. She's in cardiac arrest. I'm the only surgeon who can save her. I have to get to the hospital now." But the officer didn't believe him. Not at first. "Sir, you are being detained for reckless driving and fleeing from police," Officer Martinez said. "Step out of the car slowly." "No, you don't understand," Dr. Sullivan said, his voice breaking. "A woman is dying right now. Catherine Richardson, the chief's wife. Please, just call the hospital. Just verify what I'm telling you." Inside the police station, Dr. Sullivan was escorted to a holding area. His bloody scrubs made him look even more suspicious. Officers asked him questions. They demanded identification. They checked his credentials. Minutes were ticking by. Precious minutes when Catherine Richardson was running out of time. The fear was unlike anything Dr. Sullivan had ever experienced. Not for himself, but for his patient. He had seen people die. He had held the hands of grieving families. He had felt the weight of responsibility when someone's life was in his hands. But this was different. This was a race against time, and he was losing. He could feel his heart racing. He could feel the desperation building in his chest. How long would this take? How many minutes would he lose? Would it be too late? An officer was on the phone with the hospital, verifying the story. "Yes, we have a cardiac emergency patient. Catherine Richardson, Chief of Police's wife. Yes, we're trying to locate Dr. James Sullivan. He's not at the hospital yet." The officer's face changed. He looked at Dr. Sullivan with new eyes. "Oh my God," the officer whispered. Everything changed in an instant. The officers who had detained Dr. Sullivan suddenly understood what was happening. They hadn't delayed him out of malice. They had been doing their job, but that job had cost precious time. Time that might have been the difference between life and death. "We need to get you to hospital now," Officer Martinez said, his voice filled with urgency and guilt. "Right now." He didn't wait for procedures. He didn't wait for paperwork. He escorted Dr. Sullivan to a police car, and they raced through the city with sirens blaring. Other officers had heard the call, and they were clearing the streets, making a path for them to get to the hospital as fast as possible. The entire police department knew what was at stake. Their chief's wife was dying, and the man who could save her had been delayed by their own officers. They arrived at the hospital in record time. Dr. Sullivan ran from a police car, still wearing his bloody scrubs, still looking like he had just come from a trauma scene. But now, instead of looking suspicious, he looked like exactly what he was, a dedicated surgeon rushing to save a life. In the ICU, Catherine Richardson lay on the bed, her heart barely functioning. Her monitor showed weak, irregular rhythms. She had minutes at most. Her husband, Chief Marcus Richardson, stood beside her bed with tears streaming down his face. "Dr. Sullivan is here," a nurse announced. The chief looked up, and when he saw the surgeon, covered in blood, still in his surgical scrubs from the previous operation, moving with desperate urgency, he knew that everything was going to be okay. Or at least, Catherine would have the best chance possible. "Prepare a 3 immediately," Dr. Sullivan commanded, his voice steady and professional despite the chaos. "I need my team. Heart-lung machine ready. Blood type AB positive on standby. We're going into emergency bypass surgery." The hospital sprang into action. This wasn't their first emergency, but something about this one felt different. This was personal. This was a police chief's wife. This was a surgeon who had driven through the city like a madman because he believed he could save her. The operation lasted 4 hours. 4 hours of delicate, precise work. For hours of Dr. Sullivan's hands moving with the expertise that came from 30 years of practice. For hours of his mind working through every possible complication, every possible solution. And when it was done, Catherine Richardson's heart was beating stronger than it had beaten in months. The surgery was successful. She would live. Chief Marcus Richardson sat in the waiting room, his head in his hands. When a nurse approached and told him the surgery had gone well, that his wife would recover, he broke down completely, not from sadness, but from overwhelming relief and gratitude. "Where's Dr. Sullivan?" he asked. "I need to thank him." Dr. Sullivan emerged from the operating room still wearing his surgical scrubs. He looked exhausted. He looked like he had just completed the most important surgery of his life. Because he had. Chief Richardson rushed to him and grabbed his hand. "Thank you," he said simply. "Thank you for saving my wife's life. Thank you for rushing here even though my officers detained you. Thank you for believing her life was more important than following the rules." Dr. Sullivan nodded, unable to speak. The emotion of the moment was too much. "I'm sorry we delayed you," the chief continued. "I'm sorry my officers didn't understand. But you did what was right. You put someone else's life before your own convenience. That's what a real hero looks like." The news spread through the police department. Officers who had detained Dr. Sullivan began to understand the full picture. They hadn't been wrong to question him, but they also hadn't known the urgency of the situation. Dr. Sullivan had trusted that if he explained, people would understand, and they had. 3 weeks later, Catherine Richardson was recovering at home. She was weak, but improving. Her husband sat beside her bed, holding her hand, grateful for every moment they had together. Chief Marcus Richardson decided to do something extraordinary. He called a press conference. He wanted the entire city to know what had happened. He wanted people to understand what true dedication to saving lives looked like. "On the night my wife collapsed," Chief Richardson told the assembled reporters, "a man saved her life. A man who I didn't know. A man who broke traffic laws to get to her in time. A man who was detained by my own officers. And that man didn't hesitate, didn't complain, and didn't make excuses. He simply did what was right." The story became national news. Dr. James Sullivan was suddenly famous, not because he wanted to be, but because his actions had shown something profound about the human spirit. But Dr. Sullivan didn't use this moment for glory. Instead, he used it to teach a lesson. What happened to me that night could happen to anyone, he said in an interview. An emergency happens. Someone needs help. And all the rules and protocols that normally protect us can suddenly become obstacles to saving a life. The question each of us has to answer is, what will we do when faced with that choice? He continued, I chose to break the traffic laws because I believed a woman's life was more important than following those laws. I chose to run from the hospital in my bloody scrubs because I knew time was the real enemy. I chose to trust that people would understand. And they did understand. Officer Martinez didn't remain angry. Chief Richardson didn't blame me. The hospital didn't discipline me. Everyone understood that in a moment of life and death, we have to do what is right, not just what is lawful. The lesson spread far beyond that single night. Police departments across the country began training officers to think about context and urgency when they encountered unusual situations. Hospitals began discussing how to handle emergency situations where normal procedures might need to be suspended. But the most important lesson was simple in all of that. Sometimes, the most heroic thing you can do is act with urgency and trust that others will understand. Dr. Sullivan returned to his quiet life at the hospital. He didn't become a celebrity. He didn't write a book or appear on talk shows regularly. But he did something better. He became a symbol of what dedication to others could look like. Chief Marcus Richardson and his wife Catherine became close friends with Dr. Sullivan. They would visit him at the hospital. Catherine would bring him coffee and homemade cookies. The chief would stop by to check on his patients. A bond had been forged that night, not just between Dr. Sullivan and the Richardson family, but between the surgeon and the entire police department. Officers began to understand that sometimes someone breaking the rules isn't a criminal. Sometimes it's a hero. Years later, when Dr. Sullivan was asked about that night, he would simply smile. I did what anyone would have done, he would say. I put saving a life above everything else. That's what doctors do. That's what we're trained for. That's our oath. But Officer Derek Martinez, who had detained him that night, would say something different. Dr. Sullivan taught me that night that judgment requires understanding. He looked suspicious. He was driving recklessly. By every standard procedure, I should have stopped him. But when I understood why he was doing what he was doing, everything changed. That's a lesson I've carried with me every day since. The truth is, this story isn't really about a surgeon or a police chief. It's about a moment when all of us are faced with a choice. Do we follow the rules blindly, or do we try to understand the intention behind someone's actions? Dr. James Sullivan understood that rules exist to protect us, but they're not more important than human life. When Catherine Richardson was dying, no traffic law mattered. When a woman's heart was failing, no protocol mattered. What mattered was getting the best surgeon to her as quickly as possible. And in choosing to act urgently, in choosing to trust that others would understand, Dr. Sullivan showed us all what true courage looks like. It's not about being brave in front of danger. It's about being willing to break the rules when the stakes are high enough. It's about trusting your instincts and your values more than you trust procedures. That's the real lesson of the night when police detained a surgeon still in his scrubs. Not that the surgeon was right to break the law, but that sometimes saving a life is more important than following any law that exists. Call to Oanta's incredible story of sacrifice, quick thinking, and the power of understanding move your heart. Please like and subscribe right now. Don't miss more inspiring stories that remind us what humanity is truly capable of. Share your own experience in the comments below. Have you ever had to make a difficult choice between following rules and doing what's right? Your story could inspire thousands of people. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our next amazing video. Tell us in the comments what you would have done in Dr. Sullivan's position. See you in the next video where we bring you more stories of heroes and real-life courage. ***.